Well, hello, and thank you for joining Code3 Conversations. I'm Cece Strong, and like we have been doing, we are talking about the tough things that people are not saying. Code3 Conversations is the communication that's not being said. Typically, you see law enforcement officers pointing and saying, hey, the citizen should have complied. And then you hear people from the community saying, law enforcement is using excessive force and they are creating harm and just chaos within our communities. But we never really have people having those tough, straight up talks. Well, I want to encourage you. I know I have mine ready. So please grab your favorite drink, grab a snack, sit back and enjoy these Code3 conversations. We have some really robust conversations for you today. We have 4 different topics that we're going to try to get to, but sometimes we get on one and we go. So I will promise you that you are going to enjoy the information that we're giving to you this evening. Also, some house rules. Be respectful. We have differing opinions. We grow up with different things and experiences, and we are just different. But it does not mean we don't share the common human experience. And when it comes to law enforcement and community, we have to do better because guess what? None of us are getting out of this life thing alive, right? So we may as well make it the best living situation that we can each and every day that we can do so. Well, I am Cece Strong, 30 years, now retired law enforcement lieutenant, and I also have someone who's joining me whose name looks pretty familiar, same last name. Eric Strong is here for the conversation, and he has a amazing toolbox of information. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm not just saying that because he happens to be my husband, but he has worked 4 different agencies over his span of 32 years. And his last assignment, he was chief over safety and security for the Los Angeles County Probation Department. Prior to that, he was actually working with me in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and we are both now retired. So you got 62 years of law enforcement, and we may be able to talk about some things or know some things with those 62 years. So, what we're going to do is we're going to remember those rules of being respectful, share your experience. If you want to come in, join us on the panelist side, you can do so, or you can just quietly watch from right where you are. But we thank you for being here. And I don't know, Eric, what do you say? Should we get started? Do you have your coffee? Do you have your drink? Whatever it is, your snacks? Let me hear from you, sir.
I got my mug and I am ready to go. Let's get it cracking. Let's kick it off.
I love it. So again, I this is Code3 Conversations, and Code 3, for those of you who don't know, is a code that we use when you see us rolling down the street with the black and white. You got the lights and the sirens going, and we're trying to get to a call in a hurry. My idea is that this call that we currently need to get to is a call for more humanity, call for more respect, more integrity, the understanding that if you commit a crime, there's a consequence. But on the flip side of that, it does not have to be where it's always a negative with an arrest. We are not the judges, we are not the jury, and we should not be holding court in the streets. However, there is an authority on that front that, with community understanding and knowing that we are there to keep them safe. I know that protect and serve, and people say that, and they also say it sarcastically these days, but that is what our mission is, to be selfless servants and to protect and serve. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I want you all to think about Code 3 conversations. And our first topic is employee wellness. So this is going to be for the law enforcement officers for a minute, and the need for us to be well before we go out into the community. What does that look like? For me, it's me being able to get a good night's sleep, to have breakfast, maybe, to feel comfortable on my drive in to work, to decompress from whatever I have going on at home and try not to take that into my workday. And it's also being protected while working within the department, having the tools that I need, the resources, the cars working, and all of my equipment is there and I'm not missing anything. My uniform looks nice. There's a laundry list of things that I see in employee wellness. But I'm going to kick that ball over to Mr. Strong and see if he actually can fill in some of those other employee wellness needs that are so important. So, what are you thinking, Eric? Hit us
You
with
know,
it.
yeah, thank you. I think, when you were just mentioning that, what came to me is a few things. When I went to the FBI National Academy, one of the classes that I took was called Dealing with a Difficult Employee. And I really thought it was going to be about dealing with these employees with bad attitudes and, maybe a negative outlook or people that just didn't want to go with the program. But what the class really ended up being about, which was a great eye opener for me, it really was how employees and law enforcement end up dealing with substance abuse.
Mm,
And I had no idea, sometimes just sitting in the room next to me, how many people have struggled with this kind of stuff. Because usually they don't come out and say, hey, I'm in recovery. But law enforcement deals with a lot. They see people in the worst light. I mean, they deal with families that are experiencing their most excruciating pain.
absolutely.
They come to people and they have to deal with them right after they have had a traumatic incident. And then not only that, guess what we sometimes do? And this is what people don't realize behind the scenes. When we're a peace officer and we have to interview somebody, we have to keep making them relive that experience over and over again by telling the story so that we can know what to do, which direction to go, where to look. And we come across these scenes, I can tell you, the traffic collisions, um, the families that are dealing with a loved one that just passed away, and it doesn't matter if it was tragic or if it was natural. It's devastating. We deal with kids being harmed, being hurt in the most vicious ways, and so all of that takes a toll on us after a while.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't, you're not human. Something's wrong.
Mm.
And then as we also go through things in life. And I remember being a young police officer and seeing things and seeing my partners really, really impacted and not knowing why. Well, guess what? I wasn't married. I didn't have kids at the time. But as soon as I have kids, seeing this just brings about a whole nother dynamic of how it impacts you. So, with all that, people don't really realize. And then when you're at a department and your department is not treating you well,
Mm,
when the department feels like it's okay to make scapegoats out of people, it's okay to throw you under the bus, it's okay to put you under investigations that they know are not, are basically frivolous, spurious, as you like to say,
mhm.
because they don't care because they're promoting an agenda. And I'm going to speak really about, our agency. LASD is huge. And it's
Yes.
been known, and we've seen a lot of times, where employees are put under these investigations because some administrator or some executive is trying to make a point. And I just want to give you guys a real quick example. I don't
Well,
want to
before
talk
you
too
go,
long.
before you do, wait, I got to stop you because you
Okay.
punched me right in the face because you hit right on my topic of what I have experienced, and you've actually been here living it with me for almost 4 years now. So I just want to pin that there so that we can actually circle back, and also to let you know that one of our participants has raised their hand. So I'm going to be bringing them over into the conversation after you're done with finishing your point. So hopefully I didn't throw you off, Eric, but it's conversation, so you know how we're doing it. We're
Yep.
allowing that free flow. So go ahead, take it back.
Anyway, I just give you an example, and this is one example of many. I remember years ago, I was a risk management lieutenant, and there was an incident that I had investigated prior to being in that position at Internal Affairs, and it was a use of force, and it was a legitimate use of force. It was a big use of force. I mean, there's some inmates, and they were fighting, and long story short was every time there's a use of force, it's a dynamic, rapidly evolving situation, right? Emotions, you can't be hit without typically an emotion coming into play, anger, fear, wondering what's going on. So, short story long is this deputy um, basically was, it was borderline. It could
Mm,
be seen as some things were out of policy. It could be seen as some things were right there, but there was video. And one of the things that we couldn't see in the video is what the deputy described. The deputy described that the inmate, because there was a fray, grabbed him in a very, very, very sensitive spot where we couldn't see it
mm.
because there's a bunch of people all on top of him. And but you do see the deputy punch the guy. He articulates it in his report, and this captain at the time was trying to get promoted. And he wanted to show that he's holding people accountable, right? He wanted to show he's holding people accountable. So he puts this case on this deputy and he fires him. He
Wow.
fires him, and he and I argued back and forth. And I told him, I said, the deputy tells you in the report, he says, but I can't see it. I said, you also can't see that he didn't do it, talking about what the inmate did. He gets fired, and I told him this is not a terminable offense. This is a training or a minimum discipline. He goes to civil service a year and a half later. Guess what? Civil service gives him his job back and says, hey, it's worth about 5 days. Now, for those of you who don't know, the discrepancy between being terminated and 5 days is huge.
Huge. Yes.
Civil service may give you your job back with the maximum amount of discipline, which is 30 days before you get fired. Civil service may give you your job back, but demote you. There are all kind of things when they may give you 25 days, but when you go from fired to 5 days, and I told this captain ahead of time, this is not a discharge case. But the point is this: within this year and a half, this employee is no longer receiving a check. He lost his home.
Mm-hmm.
His wife left him. Now he's
Mm.
trying to struggle working at a grocery store, trying to pay alimony and child support. And the reality of it is this happens all the time,
Mhm.
all the time. Why? Because administrators, executives can't make solid decisions. They make decisions based on emotion. They make decisions based on what's it gonna look like for them, right? And a lot of times they make decisions about, I never liked this guy because for whatever reason, or I never liked this young lady because for whatever reason. So
Yes.
employee wellness, when you're looking there, it's such a big, it runs the gamut of all kind of things. And when you're in law enforcement, I will tell you this: this is not Google. Giving people a room where they can sit on bean bags and play games and have a massage chair, that may be helpful, that may be relaxing, but that's not true employee wellness. True employee wellness is giving them an outlet, giving people
Yeah.
something to talk about, having good, strong leadership that can support them and give them the things that they need to be successful. True employee wellness is sometimes giving them an outlet to vent, such as some real mental health balancing. Again, we
Yeah.
see the worst of the worst.
And
Employee wellness
I
is not having your personnel work 3 and 4 and 5 back to back double shifts and then expecting them to be alert, expecting them to not be stressed, expecting them to go out and contact the community and deal with some of these things and not end up going off or popping off or having something in their head that triggers them because they haven't slept but maybe 3 or 4 hours in the last 5 or 6 days. This is something very, very important to me. So I'm gonna stop because I can keep going on and on about it.
well, I'm going to be bringing over one of the attendees who has opted into coming into the conversation. But right before I do that, and I do see your raised hand, and thank you, and I can't wait to have you come and join us. But you touched on some key points, and in full transparency, for the past 4 years, and you already know this, Eric, I have been going through what was a hellacious time in life. And by the grace of God, and I mean that because He, I give all and I don't hide my faith. But by the grace of God, my mind didn't go completely dark. But to be lied on so profusely, and I was said to be a bully, I was said to be from Compton, I grabbed a guy looking for some tattoos. I was mistreating people with disabilities. I was giving people evaluations that they didn't deserve. And it was quite the opposite because a lot of times the evaluations are boilerplated. And so people are expecting to get an outstanding. If they get a very good, it's like, well, that's not good enough. And they're not wanting to hear the accuracy in their work. So I had a lot of disgruntled uh, employees or staff that were there within my shop. And there were probably about roughly 30 of us sitting right outside my office door, responsible for 200 plus people. And that's a huge responsibility. And then literally called into my chief's office and said, "You're being placed under investigation and transferred from your assignment." With no information about why. It's just, hey, you were there today, you're gone tomorrow. No paperwork, nothing in place. And for 4 years, I'm scrambling in life to try to figure out what happened. And thankfully, this past April, I won my arbitration. But it was a
But
lot of fighting. Yes, it was a lot of fighting. But the thing that scared me the most was the fact that the department did not think enough of me as a human being. And hear me clearly when I say this. They did not consider my husband, my 3 children, what this could have done because I had a very in the limelight career and I did very well in my career. For me to then suddenly be placed under investigation and transferred and treated the way that I was treated, how did they know that I wouldn't get so dark that I just didn't want to be here anymore? That
can I just
pangs my
jump in
heart
real quick?
to say that. And
Sorry.
and with so many people, I'm sorry, Eric, but with so many people that are out there who have, and we've had so many people not take the better choice of remaining here. We had, I think, 13, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, just this year alone how what they didn't have some of the things and the resources and the prayer even or the support from people who embraced me. They didn't have that. And every time I think about that just pulls my heartstrings because that could have been me. And the department didn't care. Let's pin this case on her and we'll just make it up as we go. So I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead and I'm going to bring over our the person raising their hand, and I'm going to bring her over into our panel as you take it away, Eric.
Yeah. While you're saying that, I just wanted to say yes. I was there and I witnessed it, and you had to you had to battle that, and you showed a great amount of resilience. Um, but you mentioned it, 13 employees.
Mhm.
I think that's the most ever in any administration. I mean, we shouldn't have any, but this is the kind of stuff. I mean, when people think about law enforcement, if you lose your job at Chase Bank, you're probably going to go and apply and get a job at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Morgan and Stanley, JP Morgan, whatever it
Good
is.
point.
You're going to stay in that industry. If you lose your job as an IT person somewhere, you're going to go to another IT, you're going to go to another organization, another agency. And I hate to make this sound, but I mean, if you lose your job at Coke, you're going to go to Pepsi. If you lose your job at UPS, you'll probably go to FedEx or Amazon. You know, when you lose your job in law enforcement, typically nobody wants to hire you after that. It makes it very, very difficult to get a job. And
Yes.
that's the stuff. And let's just really, really dial in and talk about why you were put under investigation anyway. It was personal, it was vindictive, right? And why did they even give you discipline? Let's talk about the case, which was frivolous, spurious. I mean, it was probably the worst, and I've read a lot of cases. It was probably the worst administrative investigation I had ever seen. And this is the part that I'm talking about because there were executives that made a decision based on an extremely deficient case. There were executives and they rode on it and they stood on it and they kept going and kept, and then they spent tens of thousands, probably six figures,
Yep.
fighting something because I know how much we pay. You know what I mean for these outside attorneys. They probably spent six figures fighting something. Why? Because a lot of times because a department can't just come and say, "Hey, we dropped the ball. We were wrong. Let's
Yes.
fix this." And not being able to say that and allowing these things to go forward, it impacts people's lives.
Absolutely.
Now, what we're talking about are kind of the what we really need to talk about are the antidotes. What right? We're talking about those things that lead to the need for employee wellness, right? And how things really impact a person. So now let's talk about really like what employee wellness is.
Yeah.
I
And
know we got somebody that
but
wants to jump on, but
let's talk also about the fact that I have one brother attorney on one side of my lawsuit currently, and another brother. There are two brothers working on the inside and the outside. And so if they drag out my case and my arbitration, guess what? They're just racking up dollars. People are on fire about their tax dollars and how much people are spending. And, people are so upset. But think about 4 years. I've been going through this and they've been dragging this out for 4 years. That's crazy. So
Been a
where's the
while.
outcry and the rage about that, only to find out and expose fully that it was all a lie? That's pretty sad when you really think about it. But I want you to remember that point, Eric, as I introduce Leslie, who I cannot say enough about this amazing person. I just cannot say enough about her amazement. And so I want to thank her first for her dedication and her years of service, as well. And then Leslie, if you can hear me, we'd love to hear from you. You raise your hand. I want to hear what you got to say. Can you unmute? Are you able to talk?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Hello, you
Hello.
two. I
How
call
are
them the
you?
dynamic duo. And actually, I raised my hand earlier. I just wanted to know how to get on the panel.
Okay.
So I
All
thought
righty.
I didn't have a question at the time, but you guys bring up so many things that I can remember experiencing as far as employee wellness, things that were not done, things that were done, things that could have been done. And your case was probably, you guys should get the book if you want to know more about it, but
Thanks for
the
the plug,
worst.
Leslie.
What'd you say?
I said, thanks for the plug. That was pretty
Oh,
cool.
okay, yeah.
I like that.
Betrayal of the back. No.
But
Uh, yeah. Yours was one of the worst, but I didn't understand the dynamics when you get up there with the brass and how they continue. They don't, it seems like when it gets to that point, they would be honest and fair. But they kept things going so long and it was so many
yeah,
lies and it was unbelievable, your
yeah,
situation. So
absolutely.
it is important employee wellness. I never had a lot of issues. I remember when my father passed away. This is just a
Mm,
side note. No
go
one said
ahead.
a word. I was on training, so I guess you treat the trainee like she's nothing. Which it was hard. It was difficult, but they didn't say a word. Didn't put it out there. I'm sorry, your father passed, but I was hurting.
Mm,
And that I blame that things like that on the captain. He knew what was going on and he could have said something. But
yeah,
anyway, I just wanted to say hello too to my friend Tina. She's on. I wanted to try to get her to get on the panel and encourage her to ask questions if she can hear me. I'm sure she can.
absolutely.
Tina is on here now.
Okay.
Tina,
We would
can you talk?
welcome it. That's
Yeah.
just it. It's a conversation. And let me just say, I am so sorry. Let me say what the captain couldn't. I'm sorry for your loss. That should have
Hmm.
been at least at the bare
At
minimum the
least.
start. And
Exactly.
it takes nothing. And I lose nothing by being kind and actually
Hmm.
the human piece of reaching out to someone. Even with the things that I
Right.
can't empathize with, I can always sympathize. So I'm sorry about that. Um,
Thank you.
and Miss Tina, I don't know who you are, but you are more than welcome. All you got to do is raise your hand if you want to. If you want to sit back and continue to watch, let me take this moment to pause and thanks those of you who are attending this Code 3 conversation. We welcome you and we are so glad to have you here. Um, so Eric was going down the road of, and you refresh my memory because you got to keep me on point with that. But you did say not just the actual employee wellness, but some of the things that lead up to it. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So what we were talking about is some of the things that lead up to the need for employee wellness. But what are
Mm,
the antidotes? And I think
Mhm.
we talked about traumatic experiences. You know, post-traumatic stress is real.
Mhm.
mhm.
And it's getting a lot more attention. A lot of it comes from the military, but it comes from also dealing with public safety, with firefighters, nurses, law enforcement. And I think one of the biggest contributors to the need for employee wellness is failed leadership. Failed leadership. If you have good leaders that
Yeah.
care from the beginning and do the right thing and work under the premise of values and ethics and treating people right, that makes all the difference in the world. People will show up, and you and I know we both worked for supervisors where they could call us and tell us, "Hey, we need to go dig a ditch," and we're like, "Okay, where's the shovel? What ditch? Where do we hit it?" Just because they're good leaders. And then you
Yeah.
have people that you wouldn't follow, into the cafeteria, after you haven't eaten for 3 days. You know what I mean? It just, poor leadership makes a big difference. So the antidotes are those things about, um, again, not a room with beanbags, not a room with
Yeah.
arcade games. It's got to start at the top. We got to go high level here when we start talking about employee wellness. And you
Yeah.
said it, see, and to Miss Leslie, I also want to give you my apology and my condolences for failed leadership at
Mhm.
the time that you were there. And so we got to start at the top and hold accountability. We got to train our leaders how to, take care of our people. We got to get rid of the subjective and personal issues that people have. And, we know people get to these high level things and they want to, and here's, let's be real. We had a sheriff that gave the blueprint on how to be vindictive,
Oh,
right?
oh,
And so what did he
oh,
do? He taught all of his executives, all the ones that he
ouch.
promoted in there, hey, this is how you be the very top. You be vindictive. You get back at all of those people that you didn't like for the last 20 years, 25, 30 years. You know, it's ridiculous. And the sad part about it is that you have people that buy off into that and actually go for it and do it. Why? Because they're not leaders themselves. They're just following whoever's telling them what to do. They're, dancing to the tune. So
So
um I'm
before we
sorry.
before we actually even move from that spot, um, I before we actually move forward, I should say, I have to say that the wellness piece starting on the inside is what we will end up with projecting out. If you have a bunch of tired deputies who are working overtime, back to back doubles, we've lost some people. Let me take a moment to pause here and say that that is tragedy after tragedy, losing a fellow law enforcement officer. It does not even have to be someone you know, just the idea that that person was on their shift working regardless how you feel about law enforcement. I'm going to tell you to shelve for a second your opinions. Suspend your thought for those who are going to be watching this later on the recording for a second and not go to the immediate all cops are bad because I can tell you that that's not true. And neither is every community member a bad person. And until we can make that connection, we're never going to get there. But the wellness internally for the officers, they need their rest. They need to be able to eat a meal. You're needing to decompress from the last thing that you just saw that stays with you and you take it with you. It's something that can get deeply rooted in you with all of the different experiences that you take in. Now, I would flip that to the other side of the coin that people growing up within communities who are equally experiencing things, not necessarily to that degree. But I would say, and I'm going to borrow one of Eric's statements, he's always saying this, we are the paid professionals. The people on the street are not paid by, and they don't have that rule book. We do. So when we're following what we should be following and treating everyone fair, then we are better for it. Our wellness matters. We need to remain well in everything that we do. We need to be focusing on employee wellness for sure. It has to matter. It has to be a happy, engaged, and motivated employee trifecta. We need to be whole, and being whole is not failed leadership. Being whole is not a podium speech where you're saying all these things that you're going to do, but yet you get to that position and you somehow won't do it. The vindictive that you were speaking of, Eric, was actually on the heels of first getting rid of about 18 people at the top of the organization and then just bringing in all your buddies. And now your
Mhm.
buddies don't have the experience that they need, nor do they have the gumption, as I call it, to go and figure it out to make up the difference. I'm not saying you couldn't have been promoted above your rank. Probably not the best route. But once you get there, are you going to take the time to learn what you need in order to do the right thing by the people that you're leading? If you are
Right.
not well, and I was not, I'm saying that openly, I was not. It was painful. It was hurtful because I did nothing wrong and I was left scrambling to find out what happened. There were other people within my organization, hardworking people the best people that you could ever imagine working with that were also wronged in this whole situation. It was horrible. And no one came back with all of that they put into building the lies. I've yet to have anyone come back and say, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to say it that I actually went all the way up. So before someone would say, well, how far did you take it? All the way up and through the very top of the organization, internally, and then even with the new administration. I have tried it and it went nowhere. But when we're thinking about employee wellness, we have to make sure that we are doing the things that deputies need, not the surface stuff. It is okay if you are out there, whether you're sworn and in uniform or not, it is okay to go and get help. It is okay to talk to someone. The stigma that is put on mental health and the fact that you are weak if you go to talk to someone, let me just take that right out of your thinking. Believe me, I can honestly say some of the best things that have happened in life for me and moving forward with things that hurt me were sitting on that couch, so to speak, that chaise lounge, whatever it is you want to talk about. But I'm talking to someone who can step back and take an objective look and give me some other ways to look at things. There is absolutely nothing wrong with seeking help.
Right.
Because we go to the
Let me
doctor for
jump
everything
in.
else. We go to the doctor for our blood pressure, for our heart. We go and get medications for everything we need. It is an illness when mentally you can't think straight because of the things that have plagued you. So I'm sorry, Eric. I'm
No,
passionate about
no.
that
I
because I
love it.
experienced it. So yes,
No,
please.
I love it. I love it. You're so right. But here's the thing, and we both know, we've talked about it many times. I've seen it personally in this organization, in this profession. They look at women very differently than they look at men.
Oh,
They treat women very differently than they
Yep.
treat men. So let me say from the man side, from the
hmm,
guy that's done all the cool cop stuff, been on the SWAT team, worked gangs,
come
been in
on.
the streets, listen, go talk to somebody if you need to. I've done it. You know what I mean? I've done it. Literally gives
Me
me
too.
goosebumps, literally right now, just kind of thinking about it because I have seen people talk against going and getting help and saying, "Oh, well,
Mental
that's
health.
weak. Well, what are you doing?" No, it's not. It's smart and it's strong to go get the help that you need, and we make it available. So
Yes.
you have it. You have the resources there. Go get it, please. And the last thing I will say is get it for your family as well. See, it's bad enough. And people mistakenly, and I'm going to ask the community, this is for the community. Sometimes when you're out there dealing, and this is for family members too, when when you're out there dealing with somebody in this profession that's a firefighter, that's a nurse or a doctor, they get called into a trauma and then they're working 24, 30 hours, a police officer. Remember, these are positions that work 365, 24/7. They're out there on Christmas, New Year's Eve, Easter, Thanksgiving. So it's already stressful enough that they're missing time with their family. We got to allow them to spend time with their family. They have to be able to go to their kids' recital. They have to be able to make the games. I remember a deputy coming to me one time as a watch commander in tears because they had asked everybody around them if they could get the Saturday off, the Saturday morning off. Guess why? To go to their grandfather's funeral.
Mm.
And they didn't even have to go out of state. And everybody kept saying them, hey, we're short. We're at minimums. Hey, we're short. We're at minimums. Nope, sorry, can't give you the day off. How do you tell somebody no that they can't go to their grandfather's funeral? So they came to me and they're like, I don't know what to do. I said, I'll tell you what you do. Go to your grandfather's funeral. And they said, well, sir, what's going to happen? I said, you're going to go to your grandfather's funeral. Give me your slip. And I signed it. I said, we've been short before. We'll be short again. And if I got to go work a floor, if I got to go work a module, I can turn keys.
Yeah.
I've gone in and I fed inmates. You know what I mean? And here's what happens. Here's the crazy part about it. As soon as I walk in and go feed the inmates, what happens? Like 5 deputies jump up. Hey, sir, we got it. We got it. We got it. So they're going to make up for you. But it's, we can go on and on and on. I know we got a lot to talk about, but what it really comes down to is failed leadership. And so we
Absolutely.
need true, real employee wellness. We need a plan that's going to implement um, real resources for them that they can call at any time, 24 hours. Oh, I'm sorry. I was kind of telling you a little bit of a plan that I have, but
No.
it's another day.
And we need
Well,
leaders, good leadership like yourself.
well, that brought up I have to touch on this point because the story you just told, I remember being a watch commander, working at one of the jails, and a young deputy called in and said he couldn't come in. And he basically was hung over. Let's just keep it real. The sergeants were furious. They were upset because, well, no, we can't. He's got to, pack his mud. He's young. He needs to come in and do, we all went through that.
Mm,
And I don't think they were objectively stepping back and looking at the fact that he's pretty much telling you he's been drinking. So and this is how I walked them through it. I said, I know you're upset with me because I got on the phone with the kid and I said, when you come in the next day, you got to come and meet with me directly because I ended up talking to him. And I told him, yeah, you'll take the day. I did explain to him the irresponsibility that got us to that point. But think about it. If I am a supervisor and someone tells me that they've been drinking probably too much, if I am so locked into my traditions and my hardcore and
mm,
my toughness that I tell this kid, you better get here and you better get
right,
here, you're already late. And he's flying down the street and he crashes his car because there's something still in his system and he's off. What is the bigger picture there? And I
right.
do not think enough of our leaders think in that way. They're so busy with when in my day, back in the hot years, it's
Hmm.
all these conversations that are tough guy and be tough guy. Crime needs to be manhandled sometime. But the heart piece of the wellness internally and empowering people and hold them accountable. The next
Right.
day, I'm sorry, he got one of those basic write ups, but it was basically having him
Right.
held responsible for his actions prior to. But we can't have it both ways. If we're really going to lead, you're going to lead with the heart piece, with objectivity, with understanding. But I am going to actually transition us over because we are trying hard to get through all of the conversations, but some of them we understand are going to take a little more time. Our next one is addressing small things before they morph into, you guessed it, big
Mhm.
things. So the small little things that you actually try to address and then they morph into bigger things. And one thing I can say is basically just basic briefings. I'm going to use that as an example. I used to love to bring all my sergeants in and have a briefing with them before the start of the shift. That way, they kind of had what I was thinking as a lieutenant here. This is what the lay of the land is. This is what my pass on was. It's giving them the information because as it trickles down, they're able to start their day and understand what setting we're in.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, though, other lieutenants didn't agree with that. And I can tell you from the seventh grade, I was teased because I was that nerd. And I remember, and I have to tell this story real quick, Eric, so don't look at me crazy because you already know this story. But I was in the seventh grade, and all of the people in class said, well, we didn't do our homework. Oh, I didn't do mine either. Or I didn't do mine either.
Mm.
And guess who did their homework? Had stayed up almost to 11:30 to finish my homework, but I wanted to be like everyone else. I wanted to make sure that I didn't stand out and I wanted to be accepted and I didn't want anybody to laugh. And so I stood up, took my homework, walked up to sharpen my pencil because, yes, we would have the pencil sharpener on the wall. I'm that old. No jokes, Eric. But I walked up to sharpen my pencil and I conveniently balled up my homework and threw it in the trash so that I would say that I also hadn't had homework when the teacher checked our binders that we carried to school. Well, I didn't know that my teacher was standing in the back of the class, had entered through the back door and saw me do this. He walks into the classroom, and this teacher was always in a suit. I loved it. Every day he wore a suit. He was just top notch professional, and he taught us math like no tomorrow. He walks over to the trash can and pulls the balled up paper out of the trash. My dad gets called to the school, and I would have rather him discipline me, take away privileges, give me a spanking even, or whipping, whatever you want to call it. Instead, his words crushed me. He said, baby girl, I had to leave work to come here for you to ball up homework that you stayed up almost till midnight completing
Wow.
so that you could fit in. He said, I didn't raise you to fit in. I raised you to do something good in this world. And today you failed in that area. You broke my heart.
Wow.
Because I always told you be the best at everything that you could. Be the very best at everything that you could, and always try to help someone else. Those were his golden rules, and I had broken them. And to hear that I broke my dad's heart crushed me.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try too hard to have our gum belt exactly like our partners. Sometimes we want to be, oh, back in the hot years, this is what happened, but it may not fit society now. People my age are what? Always on our phones. But yet we talk about young people being on theirs, addressing small things before they become big things. I'm so glad my dad pulled me aside and said, that is not what I expect of you. And had I let that behavior continue, it would have morphed into larger things. That one deputy that does something wrong on the way he fills out this citation could ripple into him continuing that behavior with all the other ones that he writes. The way that he goes about writing his reports, the little small hiccups and things that happen now, no big deal. And it comes back full circle. Now he's lying on reports. It's those tiny little cracks that we're not addressing because I don't want to be the person to stand out. I don't want to be the one to raise my hand in briefing, but yet I'm going to hit up the sergeant after briefing when we're walking out to our patrol cars. They're like, Sarge, I really like what you had to say. I think your partners needed to hear you say that. Be bold enough to step out and speak out and be truthful. Talk about those little things that are happening that you notice. You notice a partner coming in late just about every day. Hit them up in the locker room. Hey, are you good? Doubles back to that deputy wellness, right? If we're keeping each other safe and we're looking out for each other, we're not just there. We are literally doing what we swear to. I mean, we're sharp in that white suit. I was a drill instructor. I loved graduation day because guess what? We were in the best shape of our lives. Right. And we stood there with those white gloves on and we raised our hand and we took an oath and we said all of those things that we swore to do. And then all of a sudden someone tells me, hey, I've been on for about 20 years and spits in a cup. I know what you learned in the academy. Now I'm going to show you the real way to do it. It's okay to show the real way.
That sounds like people have been on for 9 months.
Well, that too. That too. Because, but you know what, Eric, you bring that up. That's a good point. Why does that happen? Because over time, that behavior is okay. Right. And it more and more, it's okay. And then it trickles down further and further until that's the only blueprint. We no longer have the courage and the integrity and the honor and the fairness and all the wisdom. Maybe I'm crazy because I bought off on all of that. But why the heck do we paint it on the wall if we're not going to live it? And if I'm putting on that uniform, I'm putting on all of the responsibility that comes with it. Every single day, whether I'm working in courts, whether I'm working in custody, whether I'm working in patrol, which is a whole nother language because if you don't work patrol, some people are okay with the court system. That's a position. We need them there. Some people are okay with the custody position. We need them there. It does not only surround patrol, but it starts with every part of our department. And I'm speaking specifically about LASD because that's where I worked for 30 years. I cannot imagine the small little things that we don't pay attention to, how they snowball into larger things. And it astounds me that people don't understand that and they don't care enough. I say with the challenge, if you are not ready to protect and serve, and you only want to do the protect and the kicking the doors and taking names and doing all of that, this is the wrong profession. Yeah. It is really the wrong profession because those little bitty cracks that you see in your partner when he kind of shaves off a little bit of something here or he lies just a little bit on that report there, he's setting himself up and you up for failure. And here's the deal. Am
Yeah.
I a snitch or are you wrong for what you did? Which is it? A snitch is a prison term. I can't stand it because I'm not a snitch if I'm
Mm.
pulling your gun belt to keep you safe. And if I'm helping you save your job, I'm even better for it. But I don't think that people look at it that way. I could, oh my gosh, I could write a book on that topic alone because I've had to actually watch it morph into it. And then I get the critics and the criticism from people who are usually the loudest in the room, but with the less amount of information to help make it better. They have a
Mm.
whole lot to say, but where are the solutions? Like, help me out. Y'all, you know me. You can give me a mic, and I'm taking off and running. So, are you liking what you're hearing? Let me know, Miss Leslie, because I know
They had
you. Go
That's a
ahead.
good point. It's a good point. They had implemented certain things like ombudsmen, didn't they? Where
Yes,
you can write in things that you hear. But a lot of times you have to speak up. You have to write it down. You have to, you know, for your own good. I used to say, don't
absolutely.
do that around me because, like you say, those small things turn into big things, and I'm gonna
Yes,
get in trouble too. But lying that's a big problem. That's a
yes.
big issue.
Absolutely.
I
And
agree.
getting the story straight. I have to throw this out because I once had a deputy. We were going to go, I was working at one of the stations and I was a sergeant and I had a team. We were actually going to a house to have a kid that the social workers were going to remove from a home. So I'm one of those people like, I want to make sure what kind of house are we rolling up on? I want the whole background before we
Right.
just go steamrolling in because I'm here just to let this social worker come into your house and snatch your kid. I don't care if the best of the best home, somebody's not going to be happy about you coming to
Right.
remove a child. So, long story short, I was able to get the grandmother on the phone and kind of just tricked her into here. I need you to come and bring the child so we can see that they're okay. And if you bring them to the
Mm-hmm.
station, that was a better option than going to the house. And it worked,
Right.
thankfully. However, while we're in the station, one of the deputies triggers a taser accidentally. Luckily, he triggered it to his left and not his right because guess who's standing there right next to him on the right side? Me.
Mm.
So he didn't, it was an accident. A fellow sergeant who was the watch sergeant, I was working field sergeant, jumps up out of her chair and she goes, "Nothing happened here." Uh,
Mm.
yeah. He just AD'd with the accidental discharge. For those of you who I'm using AD term, he just AD'd with the taser. Well, no, and she tells the deputy to go outside. And I'm standing there going, is she serious right now? And she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, um, Strong, you're so like just in this box. Am I in the
Mm.
box or am I thinking objectively as a leader?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, tasers are recorded. So, what happens when they go back into the report and there's one entry that's not filled in?
Mm-hmm.
An investigation starts, they roll back, they find out, what shift everybody was on, all of that work instead of a simple memo to the captain explaining what happened. I suggested that to the watch commander, who was a fellow sergeant acting as a lieutenant. And guess what? It didn't sound right to his ears. He was okay with what that sergeant was saying. I said, I will gift you this. When I come on shift tomorrow, I'm sorry, when I come on shift tomorrow, I'm going to stop by the operations office. And if you have not documented this in the watch commander's log and also had a memo done about it, and you're not down for this or whatever, I'm going to make sure I report what I need to report. Well, no, this could be bad for the deputy. And she had every
Wow.
excuse in the book, immediately ready to lie. Not going to say this person's a commander right now, but I'm sorry. Did I let that slip? Oops. But that's the truth. That's what people aren't saying. What happens is because you're ready to go with those little things, and AD and a taser, not necessarily a little thing, but it's something that you need to clear up. What's the
Right.
harm in saying it happened? It was an accident. You protect this young deputy better if you just speak truthfully. If you
Right.
try to cover it up, it's eventually going to come back. And I'm lazy. I want to do things right the first time so I don't have to keep repeating them. That is
Right.
my best saying ever. Is like, I'm lazy. And people say, you're not lazy. You're always moving around doing something. I want to do it right the first time so I don't have to go back and fix it. And I definitely don't want to lie about it because I'm not a good liar. Eric will tell you.
Mm-mm.
I may say something and start going down
What?
that road. My whole face changes and
What?
it's over.
Huh?
Yeah. What? Huh?
You
I
know,
love it.
to your point, and here's the problem with that is there's a saying, and the saying is, what do deputies do? They do what they're allowed to do.
Absolutely.
And again, what's the common goal here? Who allows them to do things?
Yeah.
Leadership.
Yep.
Leadership. Hmm.
Leadership. So with that deputy that you just talked about, just hey, like you said, it was an accident. And now he has to write a memo and he's going to get a little, write up or something like that. But he's going to learn from that. And
Right.
he's going to learn
That's it.
something to be a little bit more careful. He's going to
Hmm.
say, hey, you know what, my sergeants do the right thing. He's going
Right.
to, hopefully he learns to say, this was my bad, fall on the sword, as they say, my mistake. And it was dealt with. And you probably won't make those kind of mistakes again.
Right.
However, if it's just glossed over, then deputies start thinking, well, okay, no big deal. It's not
Yeah.
important. I'll do it
Absolutely.
again. Or maybe I won't do it
Hmm.
again, but I'll do something else again. And again, it's no big deal. And then this stuff starts compounding on top of things to
Right.
where you get employees that are lazy. And when I say lazy, I don't mean that they don't show up for work and do their job, but they stop doing things the right way. They
That
stop
way.
writing a paper, they stop doing the memos, they
Yeah.
stop reporting things. Why am I going to come and report something in the field that's mandatory that I need to report, that the policy says I need to report, if when I get in there, the sergeant's going to say, oh, nothing happened. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
So then
Right.
Absolutely.
therefore,
Yes.
it's like, well, why even report it?
Yeah.
And one of the things I used to tell deputies all the time, you're going to do something 100 times and it's going to work for you. Something wrong. You're going to do something that's either a shortcut or a little bit
Hmm.
outside of what, the policy is. And 100 times, in that 101st time,
Right.
it is going to bite you.
Yep.
So why
Hmm.
not just do it right all 101
Right.
times and you don't have to worry about it, because that bite is going to be harmful. It's going to be hurt. It could cost you some money. It could cost you your
Mhm.
career. I mean, in other words, it could cost somebody else some harm
Right.
if you would have just done what you were supposed to do to begin with.
But Chief Strong, I want to be popular.
Mm.
I want to be accepted
And,
because
yeah, and
honestly, that watch commander that day did not believe me. He didn't want to hear anything that I had to say. Another guy who knew me and had worked
Mm.
with me before ended up calling that person and asking them, "What do you think about this?" And let me just, to Eric's point when he was talking about listening to women, because a lot of times we're just our voices aren't heard in these rooms. He had to have reassurance from this other guy who said, "Yeah, she was telling you the truth." And so if
Wow.
I've got to walk around with a crew of people who can sanction my words, it's pretty sad, but that's what happened. He ended up getting someone telling him, "Yeah, you made it." And how about just covering yourself? You
Right.
don't want to be caught up in an investigation and yeah, you were there at the scene of the crime and who was present and all of that. I ended up documenting it anyway because I'm just that nerd. Hear
Yeah.
my father's voice in my ear. Don't be like everybody else. You better do the right thing. And so it was an interesting time. I know that this deputy, I believe he's still on. I'm not sure. I didn't follow through with him, but I do know that he had even had family members on the department. I know at least his mother was on the department, and I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't she want? And I knew her, so wouldn't she want me to do the right thing by her child? I know I would want someone to protect my child
Right.
and actually document that so that it wouldn't come back to bite him at a later time. But the little things aren't just so little, especially in law enforcement. We have to be watching those details. It just is what it is.
Right. Makes me wonder about the commander,
Uh,
what she's
Still
doing now.
probably still probably saying nothing happened here. I mean, it was
Nothing.
like the whole symbol of safe is what she did.
wrong,
Jumped out of the chair
wrong.
almost like,
No, you're absolutely wrong.
I'm wrong.
Right now, that commander, if they found out a sergeant was doing that and said exactly what she said, she's trying to give him days off or demote him.
You're
Oh.
right.
She's an
You're
absolute
right.
hypocrite. That's what it
You're right.
is.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I don't
Uh-huh.
like when you try to correct me, but I'm gonna take this one
Well,
today.
she could be doing the same thing, but
You could.
that's typically what happens. You know, you get up there a little bit higher, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know, you become holier than thou, and then you want to chastise Sergeant. How dare you? What were you thinking?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Rather than saying, "Oh my gosh, how did this where did this sergeant get this from? That it was okay." In other words, where did she, as a supervisor,
Yes.
get it that this was the way that you handle things?
Yeah. What made it okay?
Somebody above her told her that. And I'm just going to say this, you know, you talked about the word snitch. Holding people accountable and addressing things is not being a snitch, because you said snitch is a jailhouse term. And here's what
Still
it comes down
go.
to. Here's what it comes down to.
Mm.
I am going to go hit an old lady over her head, knock her down, and take her
Mm.
purse and kick her while she's down. But if
Mm.
you tell on me, you're worse than I am.
Oh, that's a
Come
bar.
on.
That's a
Hey,
bar.
you know,
Mm.
who is the dummy in this situation? The dummy
Right.
in this situation is anybody that
That's okay.
that not doing the right thing
Right.
is the right thing.
Mhm.
And we used to say this all the time, CC. We used to talk this about the kids. The right thing is not
Not
always
always the popular thing.
and the
Mm.
popular
Popular
thing is not
thing.
always the
The right thing.
right.
Mm.
Just it's so easy just to do the right thing. You know what I mean? It really
Right.
is. And so, you know, if you ask me, these people that, and I understand it's kind of a joke now. Oh, snitches get stitches and all this kind of stuff. It's, you know, kind
Mm.
of a running joke. But people are saying that really to figure out who you are. Like, hey, is this okay? Can we not say anything? Can we
Mm.
not report this? You
Mhm.
know, they're feeling you
Mm.
out.
They're
And there are
watching
certain
everything you
things,
do.
watching
Yeah.
everything you do. So, yeah, that really bothers me when a deputy sheriff or somebody in leadership comes and says something like, "Hey, I'm not a snitch. Hey, I don't want to say anything. Hey, I don't want to."
Mm.
What? No, that's what you're supposed to do. What is it that you do your entire career? You get
Right.
people to tell what happened in an interview. That's what you do. You go to
Absolutely.
victims and you say, "Tell me what happened." You go to witnesses, you say, "Tell me what happened." And when they
Mhm.
say, "Well, I don't want to be involved," no, you got to tell me what happened. That's what we do all day long when we're out there taking reports. Tell
Right.
me what happened. Tell me who did it. Tell me what you saw. But then we get into the station and we're like, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." It is the most,
Yeah.
it's the biggest hypocrisy. It's such an oxymoron that, you know, it's just crazy to me. You know,
Well, why did the
that's
deputy
what they
lose
feel.
his job for lying on the report? He should have complied. He should have
Yeah.
complied with the policy. That should be the return. It's like you should have
Yeah.
complied. You could
You
have
should
done
have
your
just
job better.
wrote
You
the
should have
report how
just
it was
wrote
supposed
the
to be written.
report. Exactly. We have
Yeah.
expectations for those that are in the streets. But we need to be polished. We need to walk the same walk and
That's right.
expectations that we have for others. We got to live up and
Yeah.
And
stop pointing fingers.
if you move based on policy and doing the right thing, then guess what? You don't have to worry about whether your partners will ever be a snitch.
Right. That's
It's
right.
very simple.
Do
I
you
don't
Just
have
do
think?
a
what you're
mic,
supposed
but
to
I
do
could
from the
drop it.
beginning. Just do what you're supposed to do from the beginning,
Right.
and you don't have to worry about whether or not anybody's got to tell on you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
They're only going to tell what you did and what a great job you did.
What
For
you
the
got, Bessie?
civilians, can I ask a question? Do you think it's gotten better from back in the day? I know a lot of people think that goes on. It's very prevalent with law enforcement that they, what do they used to call it? The blue code or something, where you don't tell on each other or you
Oh,
lie
code
or
of
Or
report.
silence.
Code
silence.
of silence or whatever. I think it's gotten better, don't you think? Or no, for the civilians.
You know what? For
Go ahead.
me, I think that nothing has really changed. So stay with
Mm.
me on this.
Okay.
I saw, me personally, some of the same things as a deputy that I saw as a training, the two striper bonus deputy, as a sergeant, as a lieutenant. So in a 30-year span, it's kind of hard to say that anything has
Mm.
gotten better. I remember partners that one day went to deal with this really tall, and I'll use race because of this, so to set the scene, this really tall, he had to be 6'3", 260. He's huge, but
Hmm.
buffed out, whatever.
Right.
And he was standing in a cell, and these two deputies that were so hardcore were going to
Mm.
escort him out of the cell. I'm a young deputy. I'm this module officer at the time. And they're talking to this guy, and he's like pointing at him, cussing him out. He's ready to come barreling through the door as soon as they open it. A little tiny, probably my size, Hispanic guy is in the cell next to him.
Mm.
Instead of addressing the guy that they were there to address, the young Hispanic guy's laughing. They pop the cell door open, throw this guy on his bunk. He's kind of struggling with them the whole night. Why? You're not
Mm.
there for him. You're not going to go up against the bigger guy. You're
Mm.
going to take it out on the one that laughed at you. If you are so weak, I'm sorry, I have to say this. If you are so
Mhm.
weak as an officer that someone says something bad about you and that immediately triggers you into excessive force, into I'm the authority, you better listen to me, whatever it is, you have a weak ego. And I hate
Right.
to say it that way, but that is the truth. You are
Sure.
coming here to deal with this guy, but he's the big guy that might take one of us, if not both. We're going to go over
Mm.
here because this kid laughed and we're going to mistreat him. And they expected me not to say anything. So when you say, Leslie, has it gotten
Mhm.
better? I've had too many people, young deputies now on this other end of the spectrum as a lieutenant, come in and whisper things to me, but they just, I don't want it to be known that it's me.
Mm.
Yeah, but how do I protect you and at the same time address the concern? Because then it's just coming from me. If I don't have a witness there to say this is who gave this information, we have to be bold enough to take the hard hit. And if
Mm.
my choice is popularity or doing the right thing, seventh grade already taught me.
Mm.
I'm not disappointing my dad. He's no longer with us. God rest his soul. But
Mhm.
there is no longer an option for me to not do the right thing. And I guess I'm going to lose because I lost a whole lot of friends. Let me tell you, some people that
Mhm.
I thought would have run in and barreled in and hugged me and embraced me, they backed
Mhm.
into the corner because I don't want
Yeah.
to be involved. I want to make sure
Mm.
this doesn't touch me. Whatever spirals off of her, I don't want to catch it. And now that the arbitration has been won, I'm slowly seeing them. Like there's this GIF. I don't know which way to say that, those little videos, but Homer Simpson's fading into the bushes. I don't know if you've seen it. That's what I felt like my friend. I'm like, the people that should have been there embracing me disappeared.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, you won the arbitration? Oh, well, yeah, I knew all along that you were a good person. Oh, I knew that they had to have been lying on you. But oh,
Mm.
the people that knew and really had faith in me sent me the nicest messages, and I so appreciate them.
Mhm.
And I'm going to pause a moment
Yeah.
to say that the woman that is on this screen that I didn't expect to join in the conversation is one
No.
amazing human being. Stayed on the phone with
Mm.
me when I was crying for hours at a time. And she didn't even know what was going on, but she says, this is not
Mm.
your character. And I cannot
Mm.
thank you enough, Miss Leslie.
Aw.
I will
Oh,
be forever in your debt for that because
no,
you
no.
did not, you had the courage to come in when people
Mm.
left. And I
Mm.
wish that people would have taken what they knew of me and brought it
Mm.
into, well, maybe she stay objective. You know, I had someone say, I
Mhm.
was ashamed of you, Cece. I'm ashamed of you. You're using this in order to support your husband's campaign. Are you kidding me?
Mm.
Did you ever
Yeah, it
look
was.
at it that it could be on the other side that I was done this way?
Mhm.
Hello, because of my husband's campaign and because of
Mm.
a 133rd sheriff, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm just going to put it out there, who made some very nasty statements when I was a young deputy and ended up getting into trouble and came repeatedly after me and my then partner, now husband. We're not going to talk about that, so we're going to go on and keep rolling. No
Get the book.
questions asked. No questions asked. Get
Get
the
the
book.
book. Because it was horrible. It was horrible. It was
But
bad. It was bad.
for you to be so vindictive that now fast forward, two young deputies you repeatedly came after. I'm page 9. We are page 9 on his lawsuit. I'm sorry. Did I say that? It's public record. Sorry. No, page 8. I'm sorry. Page 8. Wrong fingers, Eric. There you go. Page 8, first paragraph. I know this well because I read it. And one of the deputies testified against him.
Mm.
And he did days off as a result of that. You think this man isn't angry with me and now he takes the top seat within the organization and then all of a sudden right after my
Yeah.
husband announces that he's running for sheriff.
Unbelievable.
Suddenly, I'm under an investigation. I'm a bully. I'm from Compton. I'm grabbing people. I'm mistreating people. I'm horrible. I talk down to my staff. I create a hostile work environment. I allow people to do all type of atrocities, and I support it. That laundry list was huge, and it was a bunch of
It was
leading
horrible.
questions. Yes, a bunch of leading questions. So how does she retaliate against you? Let's go
Hmm.
back and, oh, I didn't use that word retaliation. You did. That's something from a witness. Oh, so she lied to you. Well, no, I wasn't there. Someone else was telling me this. Oh, so she never even came clean and told you that she lied to you. I
Yeah.
could go on and on. That case was chock full of lies. And
Yeah.
every single commander, chief, assistant sheriff, undersheriff, sheriff, all of them
Unbelievable.
were able to do something about it, and they did nothing. Eric's going to stop me right now, right?
And
Yeah, because
when
that was
all
like
of
the
this,
employee wellness piece. We on the
well,
we on the addressing small things right now.
get the book, get the book.
Yeah,
Get
get the
the
book. Get the book.
Is what everything is connected and what is
No,
involved.
yeah, and and of
Leadership,
course
right?
you're
Leadership.
absolutely, of course, and of
Every
course,
single topic
and of course you're
for
passionate
leadership.
about it. You know what I mean? It
I
was
am.
impactful to you, but yeah,
Yeah.
we all know those they
Eric's
morph
like,
into big
move
things
on.
and small things.
Little
It was
things morph
bad.
into
We
big
just,
things.
we just want to make sure,
But
everybody's
you
getting,
know what?
yeah,
But that analogy, and you can attest to this because you were there in 2000, what, 4? Do I have the right year?
I get it.
When
Yeah.
those little small things were over time building up and it didn't all make sense until this case. And then we
Mm.
started backtracking like, oh, this is connected. Wait a minute. You're still bent over something that happened that many years ago. That was little things building to big things. I'm going to try to bring it full circle and make
Hey,
sure that
look,
it
hey, good
fit.
save,
Look
good
how
save,
look, I
good
say,
save.
look how good God is. Look where you are now. That's
There
what
you
I
Amen.
go.
That is truthful.
Good
That
save.
is truthful. So, anything else on the big thing, the small things that before they morph into big things?
Oh, I think that's a mic drop.
That's a mic drop. We're
Yeah.
gonna move on. So, transparency. Oh,
Mm.
I don't even want to. I don't think I want to
Oh.
touch on this, and I'm gonna bring up all. I'm gonna bring up all of them, and I'm gonna read through them, and then we will leave them here so people can actually see it. But honest and accurate communication. I'm just gonna stare. You know how Eddie Murphy, when he's in his movies, he looks at the screen. Honest and accurate communication, clear motives, plain language. Because I think often
Yeah.
we don't just talk straight and slow things down and get
That's
clarification. One of my 7 C's, by the way, in my training, the seven
very
C's of
true.
survival and sustainability. We don't work to get clarification. Plain language, and the right leaders. I'm just going to repeat that last one.
Mm.
the right the right leaders. Can we please get the right leaders? Not
Yes.
someone who is friends with someone else and they worked back in the hot years together in the same radio car. So now you're just going to be a chief and you
Right.
have no idea, nor do you want to actually find an idea of how to go about it. I was just gifted a position because, hey, I know that you're going to do whatever I ask of you now that I've given you this promotion.
Mm.
It's sad. So transparency. I hear it from the podiums. I'm so tired of the word, to be honest with you, because real transparency is not what I've been seeing. I've heard it's an open investigation
Mm.
repeatedly. It's an open investigation, so we can't talk about it. It's an open
Mhm.
investigation, so we can't do this. Eventually, a video is going to leak, right? Am I wrong, Eric? You help me out. You thinking that it's hidden
Don't
and
you
somebody's
know
going to drop
me?
something.
I
Yeah.
listen. Transparency is a buzzword right now. Um,
Mm.
and here's the thing, and I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago about this. It's one thing. Well, let me just back up. Law enforcement is so behind the times. We're in such an antiquated culture. One of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of the same things that we're doing today, we've been doing for decades.
That's true.
You
Yes,
mentioned it. You mentioned it. It's an
That's
open investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. What does that mean? Because what that has been, it has been a way to say nothing. It has
absolutely.
been a way to keep the press and keep the people at bay and say, oh, it's an
right.
open investigation. But in any investigation, especially if you've been an investigator, there's a lot you could talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot that you can give. There's a lot of things that you can share, and there
Mhm.
are many things that you cannot. But the open investigation is just a way to say nothing, right?
Absolutely.
Because we don't want to share things. So, honest and accurate communication. And one of the things that I I can't say I enjoy doing, but I really got something out of doing it was going to communities and speaking to them, both on the job and off the job when the tough stuff happened in the
Yeah.
station. When something
Mm.
bad happened, and when I say something bad, maybe a deputy caused harm, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Maybe took a
Mm.
life. And I never wanted to go into the church or into the community of all the supporters.
Mm.
I wanted to be there with the family members. I wanted to be there with those people that were hurting because that is where the dialogue occurred. That
Mm.
is where we were able to have impactful communication. And I was never afraid to be there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I think law enforcement hides because they're afraid to be in some of those environments. They're afraid they don't know what to say. They don't know how to address the people. So then it becomes a lack of transparency because we say nothing.
Mm.
Yep.
Another thing that I know here in California we hide a lot behind is the Peace Officers Bill of Rights.
Hmm.
And we'll say, well, it's an investigation and these files are confidential. Well, here's the thing. Again, remember I
And
said we
three of
could
those
share
were
some things?
violated. Three of those
Yeah,
were violated
exactly.
in my case, by the way. We use it when we
Right.
Right.
can, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
not to the
Yeah.
benefit of those like me.
But
Right.
the point is this is that we may not be able to share, hey, John Doe is under investigation for something.
Specifics.
Oh,
But
right.
the department can talk about we're conducting an investigation into a use of force, into a shooting, into this. And, we could talk about certain things. Like you just said, a video is going to come out eventually. So law
Absolutely.
enforcement is being forced to be transparent. They're not doing it
Absolutely.
willingly.
Nope.
They're
That's
being
right.
forced by community
Compliance.
outcry. They're
Yeah.
being forced by legislation that is requiring them to produce things. They're
Right.
being forced because if they don't release the video, if they don't come out, somebody else has a video from the corner store, from the Ring doorbell camera, or from five people's phones from five different angles. Law enforcement is not doing this willingly. They're coming along, they are fighting it tooth and nail, but they have to be transparent. And
Right.
now we have, and I'm just going to speak to it real quick. We had a 33rd sheriff who you brought up, right? That was under a
Mm.
lot of scrutiny because
Mm.
he refused to cooperate with the Civilian Oversight Commission. He refused
Mm.
to provide documents. He refused to go and sit down with them. And guess what? The 34th sheriff is now doing the exact same thing. Go look at the Civilian Oversight Commission agendas. What
Yeah.
are they
Mm.
talking about? They're still
Same
not getting the
things with
things that they're
nothing done.
asking for,
Mhm.
even though that's part of the agreement. And even though they have subpoena power, what is he
Mm-hmm.
hiding behind? He's hiding behind attorneys and county council. And here's my thing, and here's what I always used to say, CC. I used to always say this. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't really care who sees it.
Exactly.
That's right.
And
That's
if you
true.
make a
Exactly.
mistake, and I
That's
and I always and I say this as well. I say this as well. Everything we need to be successful in this profession and in terms of being a leader, we pretty much learned in kindergarten.
Yep.
Say please, say thank you, and say you're sorry when you're supposed to. And so a lot of times we get there and we just don't want to. And I think what it really comes down to is a lot of these people don't, they just lose how to be human and just to do the right thing. And they get
Mm.
caught up in, I don't know what they get caught up in. Oh, liability. They get, caught up in legalese. And really what they get caught up in is the person in front of me or ahead of me or above me told me don't say anything. So I'm not going to say anything.
Ooh. Ooh. For real.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And so yeah, transparency is a big thing. And I'm speaking again,
Trust.
for the organization that I know the best. It's sometimes we just got to speak plain language to people. We got to stop with all the cop
Mm-hmm.
lingo, and it's an open investigation, and the individual alighted from the car and produced
Enlightened.
made a furtive movement and produced something that was unidentifiable and blah 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 blah. It's just, hey, look, here's what
Plain
happened.
language.
Yeah.
Plain
Let's just
language.
speak. I mean, guess what? We did it before we came on the department, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why did we have to change our vernacular, our lingo to the point where nobody can understand us? Well, we don't want people to understand us. That's what it really boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's getting
transparency is
better.
big.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
No,
It's
go ahead.
getting better, but we're forced to do it to
Right.
get better
Yes.
because of legal
Yeah.
issues or
Yeah.
videos, tapes, or yeah.
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 I think
I think
because
it's getting
the
better because the law is forcing us, and the law specifically says you shall release this,
Right.
you
yeah.
will release that, and it hasn't, and even then, there's still delays.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
And I
so
have to think about when you're talking about being forced to speak about these things or go ahead and tell it when that video pops up. Another plug, Leslie. I've been featured on a television show and it was for 2 seasons, I Crime with
Right.
Elizabeth Vargas from so a shout out to Elizabeth Vargas from America's Most Wanted, Trifecta Productions and Scott Sternberg Productions. So shout out to them. During all this turmoil, they reached out to me and
Mhm.
asked if I actually would be a consultant with their show. And
Mhm.
some of the videos, because these literally people are capturing crimes on their cell phones.
Right.
And then they're asking us, well, what did you see? What do you think about it? And we would talk about it. But you have no choice now. People are
Right.
out there capturing
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
with their cell phones. I watched a woman have a complete meltdown in the doctor's office because she was told no and that the machines were down and that they couldn't do the test that they were going to do for her. I literally watched her have a full on meltdown and I thought about it for half a second like I should
Taper. Did you
record.
video?
I should put my phone where I could kind of her not see it and capture this because people are not going to believe she would not be told no. She said, "Well,
Mm.
I got it. You need to do this test. I drove all the way over here, and this needs to happen." And I'm thinking, didn't she just hear? Did she not hear them say that the machines don't work? Like you can't force it to happen, lady. You got to
Yeah.
shuffle on. You got to move on. But when you're talking about the transparency piece and if things have gotten better, I agree with you, Eric, that it's a forced because of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening, because of everything that's out there, because of the I crime people that are turning in videos saying, there was a one video of family fighting at Disneyland and it went viral. And I saw some people, and then I saw it come back again, and I was like, oh, I have a video about that because I was on the show talking about that particular
Mm.
video. But there's so much out there, and I'm with Eric. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and call me a nerd, call me different, call me weird, call me whatever you want to, other than late for dinner, call me whatever you choose to. But I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing. And I'm too lazy to keep lying to you.
Mm.
And I swore and took an oath to do the right thing and to protect and serve. And if I can't do both, I should not be wearing this uniform. I'm going to keep driving
Oh,
that point home because it's the truth.
right. On a side note, do we have body cams yet? LASG?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes,
finally.
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes, they do, and again, that's why are body cams necessary? Because it's forced transparency.
Yep.
Right.
And then those body cams are supposed to be audited, but I just want to say this. I want to say something because CC mentioned we took an oath and all these things, and just for the public and others out there, it talked about the things that we need to do to be successful. And I
Yeah.
want to say that, neither CC or anybody else in this career, this profession is perfect. We're
Mm-mm.
not here to say that we've done every single thing by the book our
Not
entire
at all.
career over
Right.
32
Right.
years. But the point is this: where is your heart? Where are your values? We've made mistakes, but
Yeah.
did we make a mistake of the mind or of the heart? We're human. We're never going to be
Right.
perfect. There's only
Yeah.
one perfect human being that ever walked this earth,
That's
and
right.
Come
so we
on.
are not there. But, you know, for me,
Yeah.
what bothers me is to see law enforcement that feel like it's okay to try to get around the rules, to
Yeah.
Mm.
feel like it's okay to try to circumvent. And what really bothers me is to see when they get upset. when you call them on something.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've called a deputy on something. Well, hey, can you prove it?
Oh,
We're not in court. And by you saying that, you just told me, yeah, you know exactly what you did. You know what I mean? You just trying to figure out if I can prove it. You know, so yeah, we're
and
not perfect, and
keep
we
that same
try.
energy getting that report written that you brought to me
Right.
that had all
Exactly.
type of holes in it. Keep that
Yeah.
energy.
You
Yeah.
know, and again, transparency to me, the biggest part about transparency is being able to say, hey, this time we may have messed up, you know, and figuring out how to learn from it rather than how to cover it. And I understand
Absolutely.
too that we're in a litigious society. People gonna want to sue, and we don't want to give them ammunition to say, hey, we messed up. But there's ways to do it, and there's ways
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, to just be a good leader, a good human being, so to say, you know,
Right.
without what, you know, without completely throwing the organization under the bus, but
Yep.
also with addressing, you know, what happened and
Mm.
addressing, you know, it with compassion for people. And that's what we need to get to. And I want to say something that
Like that.
uh, um, we might be digressing a little bit. But something that you said, Cece, and we kind of vetted this out. We kind of flushed it out over the last couple of days. But there is a saying, and you said it the best. It's not just about law enforcement.
Mhm.
It's about enforcing life.
Life
I think I
Mm.
said
enforcement.
it right, right? Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
it's not just law
Mm.
enforcement, it's about life enforcement.
Yes.
Mm.
You know,
So
so one of the things that we need to do in
like
law enforcement is get away from this us versus them
Ooh, come on.
and
Yes.
just start treating people the way that they need to be treated. Be transparent with them. One of the things that I used to bother me the most about a deputy, especially as a supervisor, was complaint, is you grab somebody, you put them in the backseat of the car, and they ask you, "Why am I here?" Shut up and just sit down.
mm.
Why? Why can't you tell the person why you put them in the back of the car?
Yep.
Why
Right.
can't you tell the person why you pulled them over? You're not giving up anything. The situation is the situation,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
so, in 90% of those times, you're not. But I tell you what, I learned that of those 90% of the times that you could tell a person why they're being detained, or that you could tell them, in other words, you know, you don't want to let them know that you found the knife with their fingerprints on it, you know, a couple of doors down or in their bedroom. You know, there's certain things you may not want to say because you want to, you know, see where they're going to go. But 90% of the time we could tell them more than what we tell them, but 50% of the time the deputy doesn't even know why they're doing what they're doing.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They just know that
Wow.
they saw somebody do it. Somebody told them, "Hey, put them in the backseat of the car." They couldn't articulate why they were doing what they
Right.
were doing.
Yeah. And you spoke about a litigious society. I didn't have a choice. I'm doing my lawsuit that has
Mm-hmm.
No,
been
no, I'm
running
not talking about you.
forever.
I'm talking about
No, no,
I'm
no.
talking
I'm
about
just look, I'm
people,
putting that plug in.
the
You know how
public,
you
you know, that we come in contact with, and the things that, you know,
absolutely.
create
Yeah.
risk management issues and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And on
Right.
the other side of that transparency and what we do as law enforcement officers, we have to also realize that there are laws and rules in society. This is not a punching bag and beat up all officers
Right.
because we do. We have some hard, and Eric said it early on, we have some tough things that we go through doing this job,
Mm-hmm.
like literally tough things. But I'm going to get to this last slide, even if we got to carry on this conversation into the next one at the end of August. But the hiring process, oh my man, I know we're going
Oh.
to do a part two on this one. So I'm hoping my team is listening because I'm going to have this particular slide, wink, wink, hint, hint to my team. Make sure this slide actually repeats itself in another episode. But the 5
Right.
steps: sourcing candidates, screening applications, conducting interviews, verifying qualifications, extending an offer. That's basically the hiring process. And
Mm.
so we got 2 minutes each. What we
messed up.
saying?
Boom.
No, 1 minute, 1 minute each,
It's
and then I'm
it's
gonna
messed up.
close out. It's messed
It's
up.
not good.
Yeah, you know,
Background discuss.
It's not
here's the thing.
fair. The
It's not
process.
fair. It's definitely not objective. It's subjective. they hold different people to different standards. And I think the standard that we are using
Yes.
to hire peace officers is a paper standard, you know what I mean? That doesn't really tell you about the quality of an individual or a human being.
Yeah.
You know, it really doesn't. And I'll tell you this, at 23 years old, when I first got on the department, you know, a big part of my job was going into, we talked about seeing people at their toughest, right? And what gives you the sense to be able to relate to people? Maybe it's a shared experience, right? In other words, we're dealing with people in adverse situations. So if
Mhm.
you've never had any adversity, if you've never experienced
Mm,
anything,
come
right?
on.
How can you go in and try to help people? And it was difficult for me at 23 years old. I'm going into homes and trying to quell a domestic disturbance in 10 or 15 minutes with people that have been married for 20 years. And I ain't never even been
Ooh.
married. So I'm trying to quell
Yes.
something that they've been dealing with
Right.
for probably 15 to 18 of those
That's
20
true.
years.
That's
So
true.
it takes a person to really have some depth and to have
Right.
experienced some things, I think makes them a far better candidate. I know I said I had 1 minute, but I'm gonna go fast with this one,
Very
right? Take
important.
Canada A. Take Canada A. Grew up in Orange County, and I'm just using Orange County, you know, whatever. Middle class, two parent, two parent income family, right? Went to high school, got out of school, went to college, went to 4-year college. Parents
Yeah.
put a credit card in their name, you know, so that they can
Yes.
start building their credit. Yeah, of course, the person is working. They buy a car, parents co-sign for it. But if they're working, they don't like the job or things get a little tough, you know, the job lays them off. Boom, they got a nice safety net. They're covered, right? So
Right.
here's
Absolutely.
what happens: they go through college, they get a 4-year degree. Um, they've got great credit. You know, they've never been in any trouble. You know, they finished their 4-year degree in 4 years, and so on and so on and so on. So on paper, you know, they look like this, you know, great
Right.
responsible person. Now you take the other candidate who grew up with a single parent, right, struggling
Hmm.
in the inner city, didn't go to a really great school, you know what I mean, and maybe didn't go to a great high school, and doesn't have the money and can't afford a 4-year college. So now they're going to a junior college, a community college. Nothing wrong with it. I love it. Go forth, get those units,
Mhm.
right? But they're also working. They buy a car. Nobody gave them a credit card. Nobody built their credit for them. So they had to
Right.
go buy their car on their own. They had to establish themselves. Now that single parent income, or that single income parent, or whatever, however we say it, is
Mhm.
gets hurt. And they don't have a job that gives them workers' comp, gives them time off. They don't have hundreds of hours of sick time. They get hurt, they don't get paid. So what does
Right.
this individual do? They need to help out mom, or they need to help out dad, whoever that parent is. So what do? They go, sometimes they get a second job because now they're the only breadwinner in the house. When they go get
Right.
that second job, what happens to their classes? It suffers. Their studies go down. They're working 2 jobs, trying to get some sleep, trying to go to class, trying to have a life. Maybe they
Mhm.
drop some class, maybe they withdraw. Maybe they miss the withdrawal period
Mm.
and they just get lower grades. And then now combine that with that person's young sister now is coming of, you know, high school age and wants to go to the prom. So what do? They say, hey, you know what? I need to help my sister buy a dress. My mom can't do it. I'm working 2 jobs. They're struggling. And now maybe they're a little late on their car notes. Never gets repossessed. Never
Mhm.
anything, you know, happened, but they're late. And they get maybe a 30-day late, a 30-day late a couple of times. And now they come in, they want to apply for a law enforcement. What do they say? Well, you got bad credit. You dropped a
Mm.
lot of classes. You didn't finish. But if you ask me, who's really the more responsible
Right.
person? Who's the one that had to step up for their family? Who's the one that had to figure it out, right? And kind of navigate life? Who's the one that's
Absolutely.
That's
been
a good
faced
point.
with adversity? And if you haven't figured it out yet, people, I'm giving you a real couple to life scenario based
Wow.
on a hiring process uh, review that I was personally involved in. And that's one of the
Wow.
problems
Yes.
because
That's a big
typically
problem.
what you have is you have the like candidate ones because that's who we look for, that's who we hire, that are now doing the background on more candidate ones. And they're looking down on the candidate twos. When if you ask me, the candidate two is honestly, that's who's going to be better suited to go out and deal with people
Exactly.
in the streets. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
hiring process, a
So
lot to
I
talk about. I'm sorry, I know I went
Yeah.
over. I'm gonna
no,
be
no, no,
quiet. I
you're
took up my
good.
minutes.
You owe me and Leslie some minutes.
Yes,
We just
yes,
telling
Oh
you.
ma'am.
yeah.
Like, we letting you
Next time.
know.
I did.
Next time.
I
And
want
then
to mention
I got you.
recruitment. Recruit.
yes. just getting out there and letting people know and recruiting from all walks of life
All
within
walks.
different areas and communities. It will only serve to strengthen law enforcement. This
Exactly.
has been an amazing Code 3 conversations like the
Good.
ones that we have had before. And we are urging you, my team has dropped in the link for people to be able to connect with Code 3 Conversations. Join the conversation, sit in the audience where we have people who chose not to today to actually be on camera. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
We welcome you to come in and listen. And I would ask that you share the information with someone else. We are not going to get better just doing the same thing that we've always done. I know that a lot of these things work. They work if we put them into action and we stop just talking about it, but we be about it.
Right.
If you cannot remember a link or you didn't get a chance to grab the link, you can simply go to ccstrong.com, just my name, ccstrong.com, and you can read everything about it. You can connect in with the community and you can actually connect in with me. I would welcome a conversation with you one-on-one to be able to say, hey, what else can we do? How can we get better? I've left the profession. My choice is not to ride off into the sunset. My choice is to make things better. So I will say to you, thank you, Chief. I ain't calling you that at home, but I'm gonna call you that today. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Chief.
Dynamic Duo.
Thank you, Leslie, for joining us in the Code 3
Love it.
Conversations. And we look to see you, and it's every second and fourth Wednesday of every month. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here with
Thank
us.
you.
We welcome
I'll be
you,
there.
and we say thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye-bye.